Good morning. This is Rich Nelson with Allendale. We're doing our special update here for USDA's monthly supply demand report. And before we jump into the numbers here, let's point out this is only an old crop demand change and therefore old crop ending stock change report. No new crop numbers have been issued. In fact, USDA still has yet to issue any official 2015 numbers. The first of those numbers, of course, won't start until March 31st on the prospective plannings report. Now, as far as today's discussion on the old crop from USDA, they did make some changes which were a little surprising here and there. Now, in terms of corn, USDA did drop old crop ending stocks from 1.827 billion bushels down to 1.777 billion bushels. Now, as far as the corn goes, the way USDA made this was a 50 million bushel increase in feed and residual, a 50 million bushel increase in exports, which was a little surprise, especially considering the change what the U.S. dollar has been making the past few days. What really was the bigger surprise for the trade, though, was the fact that USDA dropped their corn for ethanol estimate by 50 million bushels. So despite ethanol production running about 5 to 6% over last year, and USDA's estimate for the whole year only about 2% for the whole, 2% higher than last year, USDA actually lowered their corn for ethanol number. And the numbers actually, the change was not due to any issue on margins or those other concerning issues right now. The change they made was due to a correction on their estimates for the conversion rate, corn for ethanol conversion rate. And also, this does come after they just started this brand new report, which now does show DDG production and as well as wet distillers grains as well. And it just gives them a new way of tabulating actual conversion factors instead of estimates that they were using beforehand. So this drop in terms of corn ending stocks was a bit of a surprise. The trade was expecting only 1.826. In other words, no change was expected on the corn end. So slightly bullish issue for the corn picture on this side. However, as far as the world numbers on corn, USDA did increase the size of Argentina's corn crop from 23.0 to 23.5 million tons. So despite that issue and the concern about flooding in the main state of Cordoba, USDA raised corn production. That should send a very clear message to the trade not to be concerned about this overall issue down south. For Brazil, the trade was expecting a minor decline in terms of Brazil's corn crop. USDA left that unchanged at 75 million tons. One issue which they did make some corrections on was their South African estimate. That was to drop by about 2 million tons to 11.5. So overall, on the U.S. side for corn, it was a little bullish. On the world side for corn, because they didn't change Argentina, which people were really hoping for, you can call that probably mixed. Now, in terms of the soybean side of things here, no changes were made on the USDA's balance sheet. They left ending stocks unchanged at 385 million bushels. Of key interest here, the trade was expecting 376. So the trade was expecting an increase in exports. All this talk about good exports. However, it appears that Allendale's discussion that we've had for several weeks now, that perhaps this export picture is not as rosy as what many people had hoped, is starting to come true here. USDA is actually realizing that side of the argument as well. So 385 unchanged on the soybean ending stocks. That was a little disappointing. Also disappointing was USDA's numbers on the world side of the balance sheet for soybeans. Brazil's crop was left unchanged at 94.5 million tons. The trade was expecting a minor decline. And keep in mind, it was just this morning that CONAB, Brazil's crop agency, actually lowered their numbers a little bit here in terms of soybean production. But certainly as far as the message from USDA, they feel no problem out of Brazil. Also, out of Argentina, USDA left their numbers unchanged at 56 million tons. So that's also considered a little bearish here. No problem with the main state of Cordoba there is the message from USDA. Over on the wheat side of the balance sheet here, USDA did drop ending stocks by a very minor 1 million ton. From last month's 692 million bushels now to 691. The trade was expecting a slight increase to 699. Of concern for the wheat, the trade still has this idea that a rising U.S. dollar will be a problem for us, and some people had expected USDA to take action and lower those exports. Where USDA did make the change was they made that minor 1 million bushel increase in the amount of wheat kept for seed. It went from 74 million bushels for this year now to 75. Over on the world wheat balance sheet, I'm looking at all these production numbers, and the only change I see is a minor drop for Brazil's wheat crop. That went from 6.3 million tons down to 5.9. So overall, probably a mixed reaction for this report. Like I said, the core numbers seemed a little positive. Soybean numbers, you got to call those bearish because USDA did not lower U.S. or the South American picture. One thing I will speak of, which we don't normally make a comment on, are USDA's meat production estimates here. They did drop beef production by a good 160 million bushels, or 160 million pounds. Pork production was increased by about 30 million pounds, and chicken production was increased by about 75 million pounds. So if you have any questions about markets, how to market crops here during these type of influences from USDA or other issues, feel free to give Allendale a call here. Our number is 1-800-262-7538.